They say every lash leaves a mark on a man's back. But what of the soul? The stories still echo down dirt roads and through broken pines of Lowndes County, Alabama. They call him William, though no one remembers if that was his name before the chains. Folks say he was born in silence and chose to stay there. Not mute, just unwilling to speak in a land that only spoke in commands and cruelty. The children at Sunday suppers whisper it like a campfire tale. The man who took the whip like stone takes reign, still, unflinching, unbowed. They say the overseer grew tired before he did, that by the end it was the lash that bent. Ashmore Plantation, they say, was cursed long before it burned. The ground soured, corn wouldn't grow. Animals gave birth to stillborns. They say it all began when a black man refused to scream. It's 1840. The summer heat is thick enough to drink. In the clearing behind the hog pens, a man stands shirtless, tethered to the whipping post. His skin is dark, but the lines on his back are whiter than chalk, layered over scars that tell more truth than words ever could. Crack, the sound splits the sky, even the birds scatter from the trees. William does not flinch, his fingers stay loose, his knees never buckle. Crack, the overseer snarls, sweat pouring off his brow. Won't even grunt, nothing. William's gaze is not on the men, nor the sun, nor the whip. It rests just beyond the tree line, where the smokehouse squats like a sleeping beast and the pigs rustle in their pen. Crack. Another lash, another silence. He has been whipped for losing a sack of seed, or perhaps it was for speaking too slowly, or maybe just because Belgrave, the master, woke in a foul mood, but William is not here to remember injustice. He is here to endure it, because endurance, he believes, is not surrender. Endurance is the coiling of something deeper, something older than Alabama's soil, something that, if left untouched, would rot, but if stoked in silence, might one day burn. And William is very, very quiet. Ashmore Plantation woke before the rooster. Not with joy, not even with groaning, but with the sound of chains dragging over hard, packed dirt and the dry cough of dust rising beneath bare feet. The fields stretched like scars across the Alabama horizon, rows upon rows of cotton that blistered under the southern sun. There were no breaks, no shade, no mercy. The overseer's bell marked time, but the hands of the enslaved felt no difference between hours and eternity. William moved among them like a shadow. He was in his mid-30s, tall, with sinews pulled tight by years of labor and lean hunger. His face held no softness, only angles, cheekbones sharp enough to cut rope, eyes like stone beneath a brow darkened by sun and silence. He had not spoken in years, not since the death of someone no one dared name. Some said it was his mother, others said it was his wife. The overseers called him Mute Mule, said he was already half dead. Don't even need a grave, just dig a ditch and he'll lie down in it himself one day. They laughed, but not when he stared at them. Master Horace Belgrave was a man who thrived on fear and ceremony. He didn't just own flesh, he orchestrated its destruction like theater. And William was his favorite stage. Every week some new infraction would be invented. A missing tool, a crooked row, a poorly picked bundle. William would be tied to the post, the others forced to watch. And each time the same thing, no scream, no word, not even a prayer. It was not just the whippings that cut deepest, it was the erosion, the slow grinding down of names into numbers, of memory into routine, of self into dust. Ashmore didn't just bind the body, it drained it, stole its songs, its softness, its sacredness. Yet William remained. Not because he believed in survival, but because pain to him was no longer a punishment, it was proof that he could not be unmade. And every time that whip cracked, he absorbed it, not as defeat, but as a stone added to a quiet altar in his soul, an altar no one could see. Not yet the tree stood at the edge of the clearing, older than the plantation itself. Thick-limbed, gnarled, and scarred from years of bark torn away by rope and bone. The slaves called it the whipping tree, but never allowed. Just a nod, a glance, a breath held as they passed it. It was Sunday, the only day without field work, but peace was not promised. It was a day Master Belgrave often used for discipline, his word for cruelty when the hands were too idle. That morning, Belgrave claimed someone had stolen a pouch of his tobacco. No trial, no names, just accusation and performance. William was chosen. The plantation gathered in silence as William was dragged shirtless to the tree, arms stretched and bound tight to its trunk. Children were made to watch. Mothers held them close but did not cover their eyes. That would only bring more punishment. The lash began its work. Overseer Merrick took his time, he always did. 40 strokes became 50, then 60. By the 75th, blood ran like ink down William's spine, pooling at his heels. His back was raw parchment, the scars of old whippings split open like reopened graves. A young girl in the crowd, no older than 10, threw up into her hands. William did not scream, he did not beg. His chin hung low, chest rising slow and steady as if measuring each breath like it was currency. Belgrave watched from a wooden chair in the shade, sipping whiskey, smirking. "You too dumb to feel pain, boy," he called out, voice slurred and cruel. And then William moved, slowly, deliberately. He lifted his chin, blood trailing from the corner of his mouth, and turned his head until his eyes locked with Belgrave's, still bound, still bleeding, still silent. But there, in his gaze, something old and buried rose up like a forgotten beast, something not broken but born. Belgrave shifted in his seat. William's eyes then drifted, not toward the heavens, but to the right, toward the pig pens. The wind carried a new smell, iron, sweat, and something else, anticipation. In that moment, something changed, not just in William. But in Ashmore itself, the next morning, William rose before the bell. His body, torn and cracked from the whipping tree, moved stiffly but with purpose. No groan passed his lips, no pause in his step, just the low shuffle of bare feet on dirt as he headed back to the fields. The overseers didn't expect him to last the week. One muttered, "Man's too stubborn to die." Another snorted, "Or too dumb." But William was neither. He returned to labor without complaint, without a word. His face showed no expression, only quiet concentration. He picked cotton with the same rhythm as before, but now his eyes moved more than his hands, watching, measuring, but it wasn't the cotton that drew him. It was the pig pen. Every evening, William volunteered to clean it, though no one asked. He scrubbed the troughs, raked the filth, and shored up the fence. He whispered nothing, but his care was precise, deliberate. He began feeding them extra scraps, sometimes bits of meat from nowhere in particular. The pigs grew restless, hungrier. He spent hours sharpening old tools, machetes, hoes, knives dulled with rust, longer than needed, longer than noticed, except by those in the quarters. At night, whispers drifted through the cabins like smoke. "He ain't right. Something in his eyes. He ain't planning to die quiet." Children were told not to look at him. Some refused to sleep near his bunk. In the fields, William's steps made no sound in the dirt. His movements were so measured, so smooth, it was as if he glided across the rows. Overseer Merrick chuckled one afternoon and said, "Look at him, man's more ghost than flesh." The name stuck. The ghost of Ashmore, he became a presence more than a man, unnoticed yet always there. Quiet but pressing. The pigs began watching him, too, snorting at the fence when he passed, as if recognizing something in him. "Smoke without fire," the elders said. But every man in the quarters knew smoke always means something's burning. Somewhere autumn came early to Ashmore, though no leaves turned and no breeze cooled the air. It wasn't the weather that changed, but the feeling. The ground grew heavy beneath bare feet, and the sun, once blistering, now seemed dimmer, like a wick burning low. The usual rhythm of the plantation, the creak of wagon wheels, the rustle of cotton sacks, the bark of overseers, now fell beneath a growing hush. It began with the pigs. They stopped eating. The same slop they'd fought over days before now sat untouched. They pawed at the dirt nervously, grunting as if uneasy. One sow began chewing at her own leg. Another lay stiff in the corner of the pen, foaming at the mouth before going still. Then came the signs. Belgrave's prized hunting dog, a growling hound loyal only to him, was found dead by the well. No wound, no blood. Just lying in the dirt with its eyes wide open, flies gathering fast. The cook swore her salt had turned black overnight. Not mold, not damp, just black. The elders muttered scripture under their breath. One woman hid a Bible leaf in her apron. Another spat 3 times before walking past the pig pen. Then came the piglet. One morning, just after sunrise, a young boy named Caleb found it behind the pen, dead, stiff, eyes gouged. On its side, carved shallow into its hide, were 3 crude words, "Feed the beast." No one claimed to know what it meant. No one dared touch the body. Belgrave did not take it as a warning, he took it as a personal insult. He stormed the quarters with a rifle, demanding names, cursing the witchcraft and heathen signs. He beat an old man nearly to death, accused the midwife of casting spells, locked a 12-year-old girl in the smokehouse overnight, still no confessions, no answers, and William just worked. Same quiet steps, same slow care. Mending the fence, feeding the pigs, washing the troughs, he moved like nothing had changed, but people watched him differently now. That night, a young girl swore she saw him standing by the pig pen after midnight, motionless, eyes fixed on the animals. She said he didn't blink, didn't move, just stood there like a shadow carved into the dark. And the pigs watched him back long before William became the ghost of Ashmore. He was just a quiet boy sitting on a dirt floor, listening to his mother crush herbs with the back of a wooden spoon. Her name was Dinah. She was known as a healer, a midwife, and by the whites, a witch. But to the enslaved, she was something deeper, a keeper of memory, of root and remedy, of silence and strategy. When Master Belgrave's father fell ill, it was Dinah who eased his fever. When a child was born still, it was Dinah who whispered prayers as she bathed the body. But when 2 overseers died within a month, one choking on his tongue, the other sweating himself to death, she was blamed. No trial, no chance. She was dragged to the hanging tree at the edge of the property, not far from the pen where pigs rooted beneath the earth. William, just 12, was made to watch. They said it would teach him fear. But Dinah, even with a noose around her neck, did not beg. She only looked down at her son and said, soft as a breeze, "Patience is the slowest blade, baby." But the sharpest. They hung her before dawn, burned her hut and all inside it, but not before William had already stolen what mattered: scraps of paper, diagrams, a field journal left behind by a traveling vet. William taught himself to read in secret. He learned how pigs could digest nearly anything, even bone. He learned how long a body could endure starvation before it broke, and how long a soul could endure humiliation without shattering. He also learned about fear, not the loud kind with screaming and shackles, but the quiet kind. The kind that walks through a man's spine when he realizes he cannot understand the one who refuses to speak. The kind that grows when the whip no longer works. Ashmore thought it had carved William hollow, but it had only deepened the well. There was rage inside him, not like fire, but like ice beneath the soil, waiting, growing, passed down from a mother who was too wise to scream and too dangerous to leave alive. Ashmore didn't just scar William, it shaped a weapon in silence. And now that weapon had a target. The slop William brought to the pigs began to change, no longer just corn mash or kitchen scraps. Now it came heavy, bone-laden, thick with meat that didn't smell like anything from the smokehouse. The pigs devoured it greedily, fighting each other at the trough. Their grunts deepened, their eyes grew sharper, wild. No one questioned it, not aloud. The overseers had learned to ignore William. He didn't speak, didn't steal, didn't rebel. He was part of the scenery now, just another shadow along the edge of the fields, but the others noticed. They whispered. Where was he getting the bones? Why did the pigs snarl now when approached? Why did the smell of blood linger at the pen long after sunset? On a Wednesday, Master Belgrave stumbled from the big house toward the pens, drunk and sweating through his linen shirt. He caught sight of William kneeling at the trough, dumping something dark from a burlap sack. "What you feed in 'em, boy?" he slurred, laughing. William didn't answer, he didn't even glance up. Belgrave stepped closer and sneered, "Feedin' them better than yourself, huh?" Then, with no warning, he slammed the toe of his boot into William's ribs. The blow knocked him sideways. Dust rose. William didn't cry out, but he did smile. A small, strange smile, just enough to freeze the breath in Belgrave's throat. He turned and staggered off without another word. That night, a pig went missing. They searched the next morning, nothing. Just muddy footprints outside the pen. By midday, the pig was back. Mud caked its hooves and something dark clung to the hair around its mouth. Red, the same day the cook noticed her butcher knife was missing. She swore she'd left it by the basin after gutting chickens. The others said nothing. At the well, the water tasted strange, metallic. The bucket came up with a thin sheen across its surface like rust. Nobody had seen Belgrave since the afternoon before. At first, folks assumed he was passed out in the big house, nursing drink and pride. But by the second day, the whispers started. The pigs wouldn't stop pacing. And William stood by the pen, arms folded, watching them, his lips not moving, but his eyes burned with something old, salt, blood. And patience rain fell in slow sheets over Ashmore, soaking the red Alabama dirt until it bled mud. The sky hung low, gray and groaning, as if the heavens themselves held their breath. It was young Caleb who found the hat. Lying just beside the pig pen, half buried in the muck, was Master Belgrave's wide-brimmed hat, torn, caked in wet soil. One side split like something had bitten through it. He ran to the quarters, breath caught in his throat, eyes wide. "It's Mister's hat," he whispered. "By the pigs." Within the hour, Overseer Thomas arrived, rifle in hand, boots sinking deep into the mire. The pigs watched him with restless eyes, pacing the edge of the fence like they were waiting for something. William was already there, pitchfork in hand, calmly shoveling slop into the troughs. His clothes were soaked, clinging to his frame, bloodstains long faded into brown streaks from days past. Thomas stepped to the pen's edge and sniffed the air. Something stank, not just pig, something sour, metallic. He stepped closer and squinted. The pigs were fatter than they should have been, bellies bloated, snouts stained. One of them, an old boar, chewed with a slow, rhythmic grind, refusing to back away even as Thomas shouted, and then he saw it. In the muck near the trough, just beneath the slop and bones, something pale. A finger. Human. Clean to the knuckle. Thomas staggered back, mouth opening but no sound coming. Panic rippled through the plantation like fire on dry brush. Slaves fled indoors, eyes cast low. Overseers raised their guns but didn't know at what to aim. Whispers turned to gasps, then silence. William leaned on his pitchfork and stood tall, his eyes locked on Thomas. "Where's the master?" someone barked behind him. Another voice shouted, "Speak, boy." William didn't move. They circled him slowly, hands shaking on their triggers, and then after years of silence, he finally spoke. His voice was dry, gravel soft, low like something that had crawled up from deep within the earth, fed him to what he raised best. No one spoke after that. No one touched him. Even Thomas, rifle trembling in his hands, couldn't meet William's eyes. There was no rage in them, no fear, just finality, like a tombstone already carved. Behind them, the pigs began to grunt louder, snouts stained red, tails twitching. The rain didn't stop, but Ashmore did after that day. Ashmore was no longer a plantation. It was a wound. The crops withered within weeks. Cotton stalks turned brittle and brown, no matter how much water or prayer was offered. The air soured. Flies bred in swarms that never left. Even the dogs refused to cross the main road. Chaos took hold like rot beneath floorboards. Some of the enslaved fled into the woods under cover of night, their escape no longer blocked by men too frightened to look them in the eye. Others, those who stayed, set fire to the lower fields, flames licking the sky like the spirits had been freed. The pigs were butchered, all of them. Overseer Thomas ordered it himself, convinced they were cursed. He sold the meat in town cheap and fast. Within days, the buyers fell ill. One woman died coughing up black foam. Another man's belly swelled and burst. The rest buried the meat, then burned the carts that carried it. And William, gone. The night before his scheduled hanging, he vanished from the jailhouse. The guards swore he'd been there at midnight, seated on the cold floor, quiet as ever, eyes closed like he was already dreaming. By dawn, the cell was empty. No footprints, no broken lock. Just the noose swinging softly in the morning breeze, slow and steady, as if someone had gently pushed it into motion and walked away. The search parties never found him. Some said he fled north. Some said he walked into the swamp and was swallowed whole. But most didn't speak of him at all, not out of fear, out of reverence. Within months, Ashmore was abandoned. The Belgrave family line ended with Horace. The house rotted in on itself, its porch collapsing like a man folding to his knees. Vines swallowed the smokehouse. The pig pen caved under the weight of rain and time. Locals stopped calling it by name. Instead, they whispered of the pig place. Children dared each other to cross the fence at dusk, but none lasted long. One boy claimed to hear grunting in the shadows. Another said he saw a man standing in the ruins, tall, barefoot, holding a rusted bucket. No one stayed long, because Ashmore wasn't haunted by ghosts. It was haunted by justice. Time buried Ashmore in weeds and silence. The plantation house collapsed in on itself long ago. The fields, once lined with cotton, now stand empty, overgrown with bramble and vines that twist like claws from the soil. Nothing grows there that lives long, not corn, not beans, not even weeds that belong. Old farmers say the earth is wrong. That it tastes of salt and rot, like something soured beneath it long ago and never stopped bleeding. They don't plow that land, they just nod toward it from a distance and mutter, "That's pig ground now." No one remembers the Belgrave name with fondness. No one speaks of William in full voice. But every so often, a traveler wanders too close. Maybe their wagon breaks a wheel, maybe they lose their way, and they hear it. Low, wet grunting in the dark, no pigs live there, haven't in decades, yet the sounds come slipping through the brush, trailing just behind footsteps. Slow and deliberate, some say it's in the wind, others say it's not the wind at all. Children whisper about the man they see at dusk. A tall black figure walking the old pig pens, barefoot, shoulders square, holding a rusted tin pail that sloshes with something thick. He never speaks, he never looks. But he's always seen from the corner of the eye, just far enough to doubt. One boy swore he saw red eyes watching him from the collapsed smokehouse. Another claimed he saw a piglet dead, bloated rise from the mud and walk a few steps before dissolving into shadow. And then there's the sound, not footsteps, not whispers, but chewing. Wet, patient chewing that floats on the breeze when the moon is high and the earth is still. Some say it's memory, some say it's warning. But all agree on one thing: you don't go near Ashmore after dark. The final tale comes from a woman passing through in 1904. Her horse refused to cross the old boundary. She climbed down to check the path, and there, near the ruins of the pig pen, she saw it, a rusted trough, half filled with blackened slop. Beside it, a single boot print in the dirt, deep, fresh. And hanging in the air, faint but undeniable, the sharp, metallic scent of blood. She didn't look back. No one ever does. Because the ghost of Ashmore never left. He's just feeding what remains. What does justice look like when the world never gave you a voice? When your blood waters the soil, but your name is left off every page of history? If William's silence spoke to something deep in you, if you believe our ancestors' pain, strength, and resistance deserve to be remembered, not buried, then this story is for you. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories of Black resilience, rebellion, and revenge. Because our history isn't gone, it's just been waiting to be told.